Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Adnastan. Pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio. And pleasure to be revisiting an organization that we have not featured so far here on the podcast, and that is the Free Gardeners. Just to recap, the Order of Free Gardeners is a fraternal body that was founded in Scotland in the middle of the 17th century and later spread to England and Ireland. The oldest evidence of the order is a record of the minutes of the Haddington Lodge, which opened the 16th of August in 1676. And as you always heard me say, they could be older. Now, although the Free Gardeners have always remained independent of Freemasonry, the history and organization of the two orders show numerous similarities, which I'm not going to get into here. The primary headquarters of the Free Gardeners is in Scotland, and from my research I find that the Gardeners have lodges in the United Kingdom, Germany, Africa, Australia, and there are also a number of lodges in both Canada and in the United States, which is where we are going tonight. My guest for today's segment is Patrick Carr. He recently chartered the Red Rose of Gethsemane, and that lodge is located in McPherson, Kansas. I love interviewing new guests, and I love revisiting orders, and I love seeing lodges expand their influence. So, without further ado, are you still searching for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then you just trim your lamp and follow me. Brother Carr, welcome to Points of Light Radio.
Thank you for having me tonight. It's good to be here tonight.
Yes. Now, you recently joined the Order of Free Gardeners and opened the Red Rose of Gethsemane Free Gardeners Lodge in McPherson, Texas. First,
Kansas.
Tell my listeners and viewers about yourself.
Well, I'm an active Freemason, very, very active in our fraternity, have been for almost 20 years, active in all aspects of it, from Blue Lodge, York Rite, Grotto Shrine,
Wow.
Scottish Rite. I'm obviously very active. I spend a lot of time in our fraternity trying to teach others about leadership and how to change their Masonic experience. And that's kind of how this came about. Is I run with some guys in England, a brother named Simon Polkinghorn. He's gotten to be really good friends and brothers over the last few years. And he didn't want me to miss out on the new Free Gardener things that were happening in the country. So I was initiated as a Free Gardener. I took the 3 degrees and decided we would open a small lodge here in McPherson and see just how that went. Well, our idea of a small lodge is now up to 15 members over 3 meetings. We meet twice a year. And we just finished chartering a lodge this weekend in here in Kansas as well, in the Overland Park area. Several members who were going to join our lodge discovered that it's going to be 3.5 hours to come and meet with us twice a year. And they said, can we have our own lodge? I was like, sure. Can you get 4 members? So after a meeting I was at last week, Saturday, he said, yeah, we've got our people here. They had 10 people.
Now, let me ask you before you go any further. Now, what are you finding with these new members? Are they members of other fraternal bodies, or are they people just entering fraternalism like for the first time?
No, pretty much all our members are very active Freemasons in the Blue Lodge, York Rite, Scottish Rite Shrine. I mean, they're all very active Masons. This is, the mystique that we have here in America is anything that's British or Scottish automatically just puts that hook in us and pulls us in. And free gardenery is obviously very, very Scottish in its origins. When you realize that it
Oh,
started, around 1676.
yeah.
Um, that hooks people. That hooks people immediately. I mean, it predates formation of the United Grand Lodge of England,
Hmm.
so it gives them an opportunity to be involved in another order that, honestly, the way we're set up is it's fellowship, dinner, and taking care of others, taking care of each other, taking care of our community. We have an almoner, which means we pass the hat at every meeting. There are no dues. There are no fees other than when you join to buy your regalia. And then we try to what we try to do is take the money that we collect in our almoners fund and try to spread it out in the community. Um, I made a comment this weekend to the new lodge, and I charged them, and I said, "Well, gentlemen," I said, "my brothers, it's the $20 that you may donate may not seem like much to us in our society, but that could be a good chunk of gasoline for a single mother or a pack of diapers for a single father. What can we do in our communities to give this back, to give this money back, along with our fraternalism, and getting together twice a year and having a great meal?"
But I also think you'll agree with me. Perhaps what might be attracting Americans to it is that fierce independence that you have down there. You fought a war for that. And Free Gardeners really doesn't have a grand lodge, really, like a structure like Freemasonry or other fraternal orders. They're independent lodges. Yes, they are linked to some degree, but you don't really have to answer to a grand lodge about everything.
No, it's very different. With every lodge being unique, every lodge has its own character. I think we've got 12 lodges here in America, I believe. Um, I know the first one that I can track is with Brother Michael Doxey and the lodge in Indiana. There's one in Ohio, Massachusetts, and most of them have popped up in the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, as you can see the connection through Freemasonry, even though it's not a Masonic order. You can see the connection of so many Freemasons being members, because you'll see that Masonic Week is always that first week in February, and you'll see a lot of these lodges were chartered the first or second week of February.
But not you guys. You were chartered in England on October 22nd, 2025. Tell me
Technically,
about
that's
that
when they.
process. How easy was it? How easy did they make it?
It was actually very easy. In October, I texted back and forth with Brother Pokinghorn, and he's like, "We want to give you a charter." I was like, "Great." He says, "We'll get it taken care of," and got an email with a copy of the charter. And then when we were in England in October, attending the Grand Court of Athelstan for England, Wales, and its provinces overseas, um, actually the four of us met in a hotel room, and he did the installed master on myself as first right worthy master and two of our other members, and left there with charter, some certificates, some regalia, and got back and just started moving it. So it's very simple. This weekend, it was really easy. I took my ritual. I had two of my members that happened to be with me. We were attending some other Masonic events, and we initiated the 10. I opened a lodge, initiated the 10, provided installation and chartering, and sent them a charter when I got back. Now
Well, and I
they'll
say this to people because we do some initiations up here for some of the people that are trying to start lodges in the States. And I always say, no pun intended, Free Gardeners Lodges are very organic and easy to set up. Uh, you can buy the regalia is probably easier to buy than even Oddfellow regalia, even some Masonic regalia, and the shall we say uh, a lot of the materials you use for your lodge setup can be bought in the dollar store in a gardening, like it costs you very little to set up and very easy. And I love that. I think that's one thing that really attracts. You don't need a whole lot of space to do that, and as you've probably found, there are a lot of lodges that are anxious for have people to rent space from them like we do, and it's fairly easy to get into.
Yeah, it's very simple. While we may have received our charter, and that's one thing that we're really proud of, is we track in our ritual where we received our charter from and where they received their charter and where they received their charter all the way back, which is really nice. It gives you that connection. But the other thing is that we're also a member of the Independent Order of Free Gardeners out of Scotland. And we did receive a charter from them after the fact as well, as many lodges here in the States have done. We're lodge number 66.
Okay. Now, where exactly does the Red Rose of Gethsemane Free Gardeners Lodge meet?
We meet here in McPherson, Kansas, and we are actually have a little space at McPherson Lodge number 172, AF and AM.
Okay, yeah. Uh, and like I said, how are you finding it that it compares, shall we say, to the Freemasons? How do you find ritual wise and so on? Do you find it really lines up?
Well, not really. The Free Gardener ritual is, as you know, it's very different. I mean, we cover a period to where we talk about Adam. Then we move into our apprentice degree and our journeyman degree. We start working with Noah, and then by the time we get to the master gardener degree, you start dealing with King Solomon, said to be the third master gardener in Free Gardener lore and ritual. So it's a lot different. We're not necessarily building. We're really more comparing individual lives to that of a garden and how we coincide together, and we have to grow together and live together. And what can we do to prune off the imperfection, so to speak? Which that does sound a lot like honing a rough ashlar into a perfect ashlar, though.
And I think you'll agree with me for people that get spooked by these things. I find the Free Gardeners to be very biblically based that way. I mean, even when you look at New Testament, Jesus preached his sermon on that famous sermon on the Mount of Olives, gave out the Beatitudes. He went to the garden to pray just before his execution, and stuff like that. He went back to the Mount of Olives before his ascension, and so on. This was very biblically based. I mean, and people forget that a lot of big decisions, not just biblically but down through history, have been made in the great outdoors. It's a place where a person can go and think.
Yeah, it's serene, it's calm. I mean, when you think the first garden that we would think of would be the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
I mean, a serene, a calm place. The Garden of Gethsemane, again, serene. All of these places, when we speak of gardens, and this is where the English lore and the English history has so much over us here in America, because they always had these massive gardens, these English gardens, these estate gardens. That really wasn't a big American thing unless you were very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
You travel to the Biltmore, you see their beautiful gardens. You travel to other, Rockefellers, these very rich men of the 1900s. They had these beautiful gardens. But yet we have people in America that will grow beautiful gardens in their backyards.
Yeah. Very, very true. And so, but what really drew you to the Free Gardeners? Was it the message, shall we say, or like walk us through that journey? What would
Good old Simon,
started? Yeah,
I trust Simon impeccably. He's gotten me into a lot of stuff. I always laugh and
yeah.
tell him, I tell my wife I'm going to be with Simon. She goes, "What's that going to cost you this weekend?"
Yeah.
Or I'll say, "Hey, Simon's going to be here." She goes, "Oh, great. What's it going to cost?" And we joke about it, but he does. He has a lot of other rituals and other non-Masonic groups that he's affiliated with, like the Mystic Order of the Ancient Mystic Order of the Turtles.
Okay.
Not Are You a Turtle, but and the Imperial Turtles are a whole different organization.
I've heard of them, yeah.
But there's to me what got me is I like the Scottish history behind it. That it came out of the operative, if you will, gardeners who were working the large estates in Scotland and England, and formed into a mutual benefit aid society over time, to share not only their to take care of each other, but to share their knowledge. We don't think like they would in the 1700s that or 1600s that you may know how to grow a rose. I may be the gardener, three towns over. I can't grow roses for some reason, but boy, I can put up fruit bearing trees. I can grow pears, peaches, apples. You can't. So they shared that information because, again, information is power, and wisdom and knowledge all go together. So the fact that they did that, we just don't think of that here in the modern day. You want to grow something, you go to Lowe's, you go to Home Depot, you buy it, you plant it, you read the directions, you use Google, you figure it out, right? Back then they didn't have that ability. But looking at the free gardeners, I think what really pulled me into it, it's history, it's Scottish ties. Here at McPherson, we have a very large, I don't want to say a Scottish community because we're not, but a lot of us here that are in our lodges here are also members of Caledonia Lodge 459, which is our Celtic Heritage Lodge.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of Scots here in our community and in our lodges as well. And these same men who are interested in the Scottish lore and the Celtic history, who would join that lodge, were also interested in the free gardener ritual because of its history in Scotland as well.
So what do you find, though, membership in the Free Gardeners has done for you personally? Has it deepened, shall we say, your journey through fraternalism? Not just Freemasonry, but...
Well, I've been a member a little over a year now, and I can tell you, studying the rituals, they're not as deep as our esoteric side of Freemasonry. It's not. But there are still some really deep biblical wisdom to be found there, like you said earlier, about pointing back. A lot of this points back completely Old Testament. The way we view the garden, the way we view God, the supreme architect, for lack of a better term, or the great master gardener, actually walking through the garden and communing with Adam and Eve. I mean, you start looking at things from that standpoint and looking at how the ritual is very, very heavily based around these three big events of Adam in the garden, of Noah after the flood, planting and cultivating, and then of King Solomon and his massive garden, just like his massive temples. So you start looking at things like that. It enables me to really focus a little bit. The ritual, again, it's not as esoteric. It's a little more simple to pull together and grasp. But the knowledge that contained in it grows heavily. The connection, to me, it's a real connected fraternity. Not that we're not in Freemasonry or the Shrine or the Grotto or anything else or any of the other orders that we're in. This one is just, it's 100% based on that solid connection to each other throughout the world.
And I think you'll agree with me. It's kind of, because I want to believe I was very instrumental in helping lead to some of this resurgence, but it really is something to be part of something that's really enjoying a resurgence out there. Like we're bringing some of this over here, and the methods we're using to get these things up and running. I think you'll agree with me. There is something to be said for that. It is quite interesting to have been part of that, bringing it over here to helping bring it over here to North America. I know here in my city, and just making that connection has been really special. I mean, I want to believe we're really helping to bring something back that was almost dead, only not even 5-6 years ago.
Oh, I mean, to be part of that resurgence is amazing. I mean, I don't think we've ever had a Free Gardeners Lodge in the state of Kansas. And to start with 4 members and to grow so quickly with men who really want to learn more about it. I mean, we even drafted bylaws.
Brother Carr, it's been a pleasure fellowshipping with you today. All the best to you and to your Free Gardeners Lodge, sir.
Thank you, my friend. You too.
Worshipful Brother Carr, brothers and sisters. Some things I noted during this interview. First of all, most of his candidates, if not all of them, have been Freemasons. Now, you've heard me say this before on Points of Light Radio. Any member of the Odd Fellows, Freemasons, even the Loyal Orange Lodge, RAOB for that matter, would be more than comfortable in the Free Gardeners. I still believe that. It's one of those organizations, and as you heard me say, it's a very organically based lodge, very easy to set up, and things like that. But I will also draw the parallel between my experience with the Free Gardeners and bringing them to my town is that most of the candidates from my lodge have never been in any lodge of any fraternal stripe before. I love that, people coming in off the street, that fresh canvas, right? I just love that too. Right? There's benefits to both. But really, hasn't the growth, are you getting that as I am, has the growth in the Free Gardeners has just been explosive, right? Here on this side of the Atlantic, I cannot believe how many members are joining, how many new lodges are being formed, right? I want to believe that we've, as you've heard me say during this interview, I want to believe that Points of Light Radio has been very instrumental in facilitating that growth. I want to believe that. I want to believe I've had something to do with that. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But, I think it's wonderful, and I will definitely have to have Brother Carr back here again because I really want to hear what he has to say about some of the other Masonic bodies that he belongs to. I want to hear more about that. But until then, I guess that's all we have time for in this particular segment, brothers and sisters. But before I go, I want to remind you that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also more than welcome your comments and input. I also want to remind you to smash that share, like, and subscribe button that you see in the details section of this podcast, as well as hit on that PayPal link and make a voluntary donation to Points of Light Radio. We will use that to move this podcast forward. I want to remind you once again that Points of Light Radio is not a sponsor-driven podcast. Everything you see here, all the content you see, has not been bought and paid for by a sponsor. You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My X handle is at PO Light Radio. My Bluesky handle is at polightradio.bsky.social. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure fellowshipping with you and my guest today. And until we meet again, just step into the light.